Yes, we will be designing a Lush Strings sound in Ableton Drift that sound like this. What's up everyone, Bizles here and welcome to the Sweets on Sunday. And in today's video we're going to be designing a lushy and spacious string sounds in Ableton Drift, and the idea actually came from one of my viewers in the comment section. So if you have any other ideas to make more interesting and cool sounds, don't forget to post them in the comments down below. I'm going to pick the most interesting ones, I'm going to make the video out of it. So okay, the patch is my take on the idea. It's simple to make, easy to make, but it leaves lots of room for experimenting and changing the sound to whatever fits your needs and your mix. So without further ado, let's jump into the Ableton and let's see how to make it. Okay, so we will be needing a drift synthesizer for this. It also works with wavetable, but I found in this particular case that drift actually handles that a little bit better. So let's start with the drift synthesizer. It is here in Instruments, Drift. Let's start with the initial patch. How does it sound now? Nice, but that's not what we're looking for. So let's change the oscillator number 2 to the sawtooth wave as well, because if you think of the strings, they do have really quite a lot of harmonics. So either the square wave would possibly work a little bit as well, but we want the sawtooth wave. And let's bring the octave up of the second oscillator to 0 or to +1. We're going to play with that a little bit later. Let's play with the envelopes. Envelope, it's a little device that will just control our volume in this case. So we want our volume to raise for around like 1.5 seconds to its maximum volume, like the strings probably do when it's starting to bow the strings. And then we want the sound to decay, very delicate, in around like 5 seconds. Something like that will be absolutely fine, to the level of around 50%. And let's listen to how it changes the sound now. And it's much more delicate now. It resembles the sound of like bowing the strings. Okay, that's really nice now. Now let's tame the sound a little bit, because it's really sharp and really high in frequencies. We don't want that, so we will use the filter. And we want to cut some frequencies. So let's go to around like 250 Hertz, and we will cut everything above that line. We want to use the type number 1 filter, which is 12 decibels per octave, which will delicately cut some frequencies, while the type number 2 will be much more abrupt. I'll raise the resonance a little bit, you'll see the difference. So type number 2 will cut it quite abruptly, and type number 1 will be much more delicate in the slope, so it will preserve some of the frequencies below that dot. So let's go to around like, let's say 250, 270 Hertz. This is all just my preferences. This all can be adjusted to your liking and to your taste. So of course, play with that later and achieve the results that you want to achieve. This is just the guidance and tutorial on how everything works and how to get closer to the sound that you're really looking for. Okay, so let's go to the 0 with resonance. We don't want any resonant peaks. And let's listen to how it sounds now. Okay, first things first, it's very quiet. So let us bring the volume of oscillators up a little bit to the filter. So they're going to drive a filter. And we need that distortion a little bit because it contains even more harmonics. And let's bring the volume up because this is really quiet now. We can always use a limiter at the end, so that's not a problem at all at the moment. And okay, this sounds slightly, maybe it starts to resemble some strings from like a cheap keyboard, I'd say. So let's make it sound much nicer. So we will use an unison. So here in the mode, we have the poly mode, which is polyphonic. If we want to play a couple of keys together, like chords, pianos, things like that. And the mono for bass, it will sound like this. And let's add the sub oscillator. Very cool, but not for this. There's the stereo mode, which will spread the sound in the stereo field like that, which is also very cool, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for unison, and unison creates multiple sounds and detunes each of them separately. So we will play with these parameter here with the 5%. Let's listen to a G major chord and let's adjust it to our liking. I'd say around here 17% looks starts to sound really cool. We can add that little drift, which will make things even a bit more organic, so the sound will flow much better. Let's go octave lower. Quite cool, okay, but still have some work to do. Now, we also want this filter to open up slightly, and we will use the same envelope number 1. So it is designed, we want it to open the filter at the same time that it opens the volume. So we don't need to do anything. We just change this little parameter here from LFO to envelope number 1. And let's add, I don't know, let's 5%. Let's listen to it. We don't want it to be too dramatic, but that starts to sound just right. We don't want to go anything more than 10%, will be even too much. So let's say around 6-7%. And let's reset that little pressure. So we want to have our velocity to volume, and we don't want to change the filter depending on our velocity for now. Okay, now it still needs a little bit work. So what we want to do next inside the drift synthesizer, because we will be adding some effects later, is to utilize the FM synthesis. So how do we do that? We have the LFO here. It has its rate in hertz, so we can see the wave here. But we want to change it to the 1-to-1 mode. This will basically create a ratio of the frequencies between the key you're pressing and the ratio that you're going to press here. And then we will use it to control the shape of the oscillator number 1, to the oscillators in general. So let's find a nice amount. What I found is it's a quite particular amount, so you want to type it in using your keys on your keyboard. So let's press it here. Let's press 3.01. That's a exact amount that we want to use. And let's change the wave to so up or so down or square. You can experiment with that on your own. And let's add it here as a shape modifier. So we go to LFO and let's play with the slider. Let's reset it by double clicking to 0, and I'm gonna play a chord, and we will add slowly the amount, and let's see what changes. Does it make the sound better or worse? Let's listen. I think it made the sound so much better, but it still doesn't sound perfectly. It has too much of the low rumble and too much of some high frequencies. So let's deal with them now. Let's use an EQ8. So let's find it. If you don't have EQ8 because you, for example, have an Ableton Live intro, you can of course use 2 separate auto filters, one in the low cut mode, second in a high cut mode, and just combine them one after another. But we're going to use EQ8. Let's turn off everything and let's leave only node number 1 and node number 8, which will be low cut and high cut. Just going to use the regular low cut or high pass, and we're going to cut everything around 100 hertz and lower than this. You're going to see why in a moment. And with the other one, let's go to around like 205 kilohertz will be probably okay. And lower Q, and let's listen to it now. And we'll see on the graph that we're cutting everything here that we don't need, the low rumble. We really don't want that. Let's listen to just node number 1. Let's try some lower octaves on our keyboard. Not too bad. And now we want to maybe experiment a little bit with this oscillator number 2. So we have it on the +1 octave. Let's see what's going to happen if I'm playing the C minor chord, and we will play with this parameter here. So we're going to go down to octave 0 and -1. Let's see what does that change. Okay, we have this little like cello voice. Let's go back to octave +1. Let's go up an octave on our keyboard. And let's try to do that again. So this is basically up to your liking. You can experiment and see what works for you, which sound do you want. You can make macros of it and then just play with these parameters later on. So that's basically one part done, and now we want to modify the sound a little bit further. So let's add a little bit of the saturation, even more. I like saturation, and let's find its saturator. And we're gonna leave it on the analog clip, and let's add a little bit of the drive, which will at the same time raise our volume a little bit, which we need because the frequencies are quite tamed, so the sound is very quiet. We don't want it too much, but like up to 4 decibels will be just fine. You see, we're still hitting minus 12 decibels, which is really, really low. And now the strings were meant to be lushy. So what we're gonna need for that is a really nice reverb. I will start with a Valhalla Supermassive, which is a free reverb. I'll link it in the description box down below. You can download it for free, and it's super nice for all the lushy textures, and it's really, really long. I will find it. Valhalla Supermassive. Okay, let's drag it at the end, and there is a nice preset that we're going to start with. It is in reverbs, large reverbs, and it's called C-beams, but we're going to modify this, bring down the feedback to like 50%. We can lock the mix in case you want to change some presets, and we're going to bring the delay down to like 400 milliseconds. And let's listen to it now. This makes a whole lot of difference. Now it sounds like strings. Let's bring the octave down. I like it. It's quite beautiful, and there's not much else we need to do. Basically, that's it. It has a little bit of a delay, so we don't need to add anything. But in case you don't have Valhalla Supermassive and you want to do kind of similar stuff inside Ableton without using any external plugins, no problem at all. Let's delete Valhalla and let's use a stock reverb. So we go to Audio Effects, Reverb, Reverb here. And we want to cut a little bit of the low frequencies. We want it to be around this, slightly longer, 2.5 seconds, slightly bigger. And let's try it now. Let's change the density. It's still nice, very nice. And you can play with the decay, so to make it quite short or longer. Whatever works in your mix and for your song. You can of course play with some parameters here and try the other versions or different amounts of unisons. Just to basically fine tune it. You can create a macros, and of course this patch will be able to download for free from my website. Link will be in the description box down below. So let's group these all together. I'm going to design some macros for you that if you download it, you will have all them there. But what can we do? We can just group it, Command G. Let's open some macros, and we can definitely map these octaves here. So that will be very important. This LFO amount will be important. What else? For sure, some drive. So let's drive. Let's choose drive here. And for sure, the reverb amount. So the wetness and decay. So let's map decay here. And let us map the dry wet of the reverb. Okay, perfect. That's just like a initial thoughts, but we can of course fine tune this. So then you can control everything from here. You can hide everything, just leave the macros, and this is your instrument. Longer decay. Look, it sounds even better now. 6 seconds decay, and it sounds crazy. Super cool. I'll leave it like that, and you will of course be able to download it for free. So check the link in the description box down below. This is a link to my website on which you can not only download this patch for free, but you can also read some more explanation and information about how did I design the patch. So we'll see you there for sure if you want to learn more about Drift, because it's a really cool synthesizer, really easy to work with. I think there's no better way than watching my video here about the Drift. Of course, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, that helps a lot. Now, thanks so much for watching and see you guys in the next video. Cheers!